Okay, so now we're going to go into content and language objectives. So, content objective is basically your what are you teaching? It's going to be either your math, science, social studies, language arts, basically your what are you going to be doing in that subject area. You're going to go look into your text. That's going to tell you what are you doing exactly, what content, and then what skill. So where do I find them? Well, basically that comes from your TEA. We're looking at your TEKS, your Texas Essential Knowledge and Skills, and you're gonna find the specific content, grade level, and then you're gonna pick out the TEK that you're gonna be wanting to do, specifically on what you're gonna be teaching. So content objective is basically for example, we're looking at ELA, second grade, 9B. That's basically telling us they're going to be describing main characters in works of fiction, including their traits, motivations, and feelings. So, an example of the objectives that you'll post on your classroom will be the learner will be able to describe the main character's traits in a work of fiction. That's what you're going to be telling the kids that or your students are going to be able to do. They're going to be able to describe. So very careful, pay attention to that as later on we're going to be able to tie both content and objective together. A language objective is basically your how. How are you going to be able to teach a specific TEK for your students, specifically more on your ELs? And it will benefit any type of students, to be honest, either they are ELs or not, because they're going to be needing those specific objectives, language objectives, to be able to gain understanding of the TEK. So how you're going to be teaching is going to be throughout the listening, speaking, reading, or writing components for your language in order to master this skill. So where do I find them? Well, there I have attached two more materials in this course where you have your ELPs. They describe specifically what each one means for them to be able to access understanding of their listening, speaking, reading, and writing. Also, I have added a supporting document that summarizes your ELPs, being able to tell you specifically, well, if I'm reading, I'm going to be using this specifically. Same thing that the ELPs tell you, but this is more of a summary and it gives a little more understanding on that. So language objective will look like 5B, write using newly acquired vocabulary. So the objective when you post it up in your classroom will say students will write sentences using newly acquired vocabulary about the main character's trait using the word bank and sentence stem. So you're telling them what they're learning, which is your character's traits, but also incorporating that language. So you tell them basically how they're going to be doing learning and describing the character's traits. So you're going to be giving out vocabulary for them. They're going to write those sentences. You're going to give them word bank and sentence stems to be able for them to acquire the understanding and knowledge of how to describe those characters' traits, not just tell them to do it. So here are a little bit more examples on content and language objective. These are elementary content and language objective. So for language arts, your content objective will look like, I will explore the process that led to the information of fossil fuels. That'll be a 5.7a. The language objective for that will be, I will use visuals and contextual support to read information about fossil fuel information. So you tell them how they're going to be learning that process is through visuals and context support. Then you go into, for example, math. The students will organize data using pictograph or bar graphs with intervals of one or more. That's a second grade one. And then the language objective will look like the students will pronounce the words collect data, pictograph, bar graphs, intervals correctly. So basically that's going to be able to organize the whole information. For science, the learner will differentiate between weather and climate. And that's the fifth grade. So how they're going to be able to differentiate it? Well, the learner will describe in writing the current weather and the climate of a given geographic area. Social studies, I can explain the economic patterns of Native American tribes of Texas. So that is a TEK for fourth grade. So how my fourth graders will be able to learn the economic patterns? Well, I could be able to share in corporate group because it's a little bit heavier for them. So we'll be able to share in corporate group what I know about Native American tribes of Texas. So up next, we will be able to work with these content and language objectives to be able to create your own.